Well, it's Tuesday, and you all know what that means. That means we get to review NWA Powerrr. As you know, they were in their fallout after Hard Times 3. As you know, Austin Idolmania is now, seems like they're in full control with three champions in their wake. But what took place in NWA Powerrr? We'll get to that. Also, we got AEW Dark with 9 matches. And of course, NXT, as you know, we have Last Woman Standing. Will Mandy Rose reign supreme as continue on as the NXT Women's Champion, or will Alba Fire be finally dethroning her? But also, we got Braun Breaker, who will be putting his title on the line against a very worthy adversary, and that is, of course, Von Wagner. And of course, we got some news updates to tell what's been going on in the world of pro wrestling. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that's pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, Gerard here. So, let's begin with NWA Powerrr. As you know, we entered a fallout after Hard Times. In this particular event, we saw it started out with Austin Idolmania. As you know, we have three champions. We have Zion as the national heavyweight champion, Jordan Clearwater, the brand new NWA World Television champion, and then finally Tyrus, brand new NWA World Heavyweight champion. So it appears now we're seeing how far they have gone. However, there's a lot of people that I've been hearing. Some people disagree with the decision of having Tyrus become a champion, but I will talk about that in my podcast on Wednesday. So you guys will be, of course, well, today is Tuesday. Following day, I will be actually doing that and talking a little bit about it. See my train of thoughts. If you guys don't have me on my podcast, find me on DWZ Podcast with J Roddy. You will find me there. Now, our next match is a for the NWA World Television title. Jordan Clearwater will put his title on the line against Mims, who won the number one contendership against Anthony Andrews. This match played played the same rules, 6 minutes and 5 seconds. However, I think this match was played out by Jordan Clearwater, who tried to play the smart game. Now, he doesn't initially need to pin Mims. All he needs to do is try to hold on. However, if the time limit ends after 6 minutes and 5 seconds, he still retains the title, but he doesn't have to do anything. Basically, he tries to hold on as possible, while Nims is trying desperately to pin, but it did not go exactly according to plan. Now, our next match, we have a wrestler coming from the Wildcats, which is a promotion run by Oxari. We have Ryan Davids taking on Odison. I thought this is one of those pound for pounds, house fights, that sort of thing. But however, in this one, it was Odison who picked up the win by applying a very interesting pounce onto Davidson to pick up the win. Now we do get an interview with Aaron Stevens. As you know, he's frustrated that he has to be in the match against Kratos, despite the fact that he's saying, I am done as a wrestler, I am a manager. But we all know he's full of it. And then the next interview we have, I believe, Country Gentlemen. As you know, they are now set their sights against the Fixers to once hopefully win and obtain the NWA United States Tag Team titles. But we'll see what happens then. And that's going to take place on NWA USA. Then finally, our last match, we have Aaron Stevens versus Kratos. Now, these two have been going back and forth for a long time. Things did not go exactly how we would have imagined. Once again, this masked assailant shows up. We all know who that is. And another one showed up with a very strange body type. We all believe it must be uh, Marche Rocket, but we don't know for sure if that's the case. Question mark tried to show up to help, but the numbers was too much, so that kind of ended in that fashion. So we'll see what happens on the upcoming next week or in NWA USA. But right now, let's move on with AEW Dark. Okay, AEW Dark opened up with Sky Blue taking on Paris Van Dale. Not much of a hype, but we all know Sky Blue is the heavy favorite in this particular match. So I can safely say that she won the match when she applied a flatliner onto Paris to give her the W. Now, our next match, we have the Iron Savages, Bronson and Boulder, formerly of Bear Country, along with JT Davids taking on Brando Lee, Lucas Chase. Now, this one was a very brutal match. You know this one's going to fall in the favor of the Iron Savages, but it was Bronson that picked up the pinfall. 1, 2, 3. Iron Savages win. Next match we have Kira Hogan versus Kennedy Copeland. Like I said, much not hype, but it was Kira Hogan that picked up a very good win when she applied a spinning roundhouse kick onto Kennedy. 1, 2, 3. It was done. Next match, we have Zach Clayton taking on Frankie Kazarian. Now, this would put Zach Clayton in a very big test. Frankie Kazarian may be a veteran, but he's no slouch. You know, he's done it all in all this and that. But the real thing is, will Frank Kazarian try to put away a fresh or new guy who's making a name for himself, or will Zach Clayton will pull up an upset? Well, as you know, it took maybe 2 tries for Frankie Kazarian to apply the chicken wing submission, and of course, he successfully pulled it off, forcing Zach Clayton to pick up to tap out. Now, our next, we have get an interview with Lexi Nair, who interviews Brock, and of course his dad, Arn Anderson, as you know, talking about the upcoming title match in the main event with Daniel Garcia. Now, they are willing to admit that they never stepped up into a pure rule style, so this is going to be off their reservation, but we'll see how they played out. Next up, we got once again the Factory, Cole Carter, Lee Johnson, and QT Marshall taking on Channing Thomas, Teddy Goods, and what's his name? Man Scout. As you know, this is ever since Lee Johnson reunites with QT, they're on a rampage, so they believe now they're more strong in there, but they're still the same pricks that they are due to the fact that they're better than every other wrestling school in the planet, but they're not. So they were able to pick up a good win when they applied an impressive three-way move where QT applied the diamond cutter, but it was Lee Johnson that picked up the win. Next up, we have Athena versus LMK. The match ended, of course, with Athena when she couldn't apply her eclipse, so she moved on to another move, which is, of course, the lariat, giving her the win and once again being disrespectful to her opponents after defeating them. Our next match, we have the Dark Order, Silver, Reynolds, and Uno taking on Arjun Singh, Mike Magnum, and um, Brett Gosselin. I thought the match was pretty good. It showed a little bit more of the unity with Dark Order. I thought it was great, but it was, of course, the pendulum bomb onto, I believe, by, I think it was Mike Magnum, and 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now our next match is our main event. It's for the for the Ring of Honor World Pure Championship. We have, of course, the challenger Brock Anderson with his dad Arn taking on Daniel Garcia. This match was another brutal match you probably wouldn't imagine, but however, it was Daniel Garcia with the pile driver to pick up the win. And of course, as you know, him being disrespectful to the name Ring of Honor, sooner or later someone will take that title away from him. I think that's pretty much it. What we have right now here. Let's move on with our last review, NXT. Okay, NXT opened up with the NXT Championship on the line. Von Wagner taking on Braun Breaker. Now, this is a very tough match that I think Braun Breaker has ever put himself in. Now, Von Wagner has been looking for an opportunity to finally take something that he feels it should belong to him, which is the NXT Championship. Braun Breaker put up a lot of fight and also great maneuvers, but he could not stop the power of Von Wagner. However, when he kicked out of a pinfall, Von Wagner just got distracted by taking care of the ref and Mr. Stone, not realizing he cost himself the match when, of course, Braun Breaker applied a spear, and then 1, 2, 3, Braun Breaker retained the title. Now, Braun Breaker goes in the back. He deals with JD McDonough, who's on the verge. Now, keep in mind, JD McDonough and Apollo Crews have their sights set on the NXT Championship, but the obvious question does remain, who will be the one to obtain it? Well, we'll see about that. Now, our next match, we have tag team action in this share. Ver and Senga taking on George Kenlin, Keenan, and Ariel Dominguez. This was a direct message by Indus to send to the Creed brothers. It appears they called them out once they defeated their opponents, and that sort of thing plays out in a good way. However, right after, the Creed brothers feel like they cannot overlook them. Ivy now tries to reason with them, but of course they're not going to turn away at a challenge, which is something they don't do on a day-to-day basis. Now, our next interview, we have Wendy Chu. Now, Wendy Chu, as you know, has some things to get out of her chest due to the fact that what Cora Jade has said about her and all this other stuff. Now, you know, Wendy Chu's not going to let this go, no matter what Cora Jade thinks. But there's going to be a match taking place real soon about that. So that's going to be fun to hear. Now, we do get a match that kind of sets up who's going to be the one to challenge Braun Breaker for the NXT title. It will be Apollo Crews or JD McDonough. I have to say, this was a very brutal match, a very tough one for both competitors. Now, you would assume JD McDonough would have won, but no, it was Braun with a slam onto JD McDonough, and 1, 2, 3, it was over right from there. Now, our next interview, we have Mandy Rose. Now, Mandy Rose, as you know, has been sick and tired of people doubting because, as you know, there have been many people that felt that it was time for someone to step up to become the next NXT Women's Champion. But Mandy Rose is trying to prove that she is that good and all that sort of thing. Now, our next interview, Javier Bernal, such an idiot. He tries to call out wrestlers who are out on injury. So basically, still unclear what he's trying to do, but he probably has someone in mind, but we'll see how that goes. Now, our next, we have a contract signing for the NXT North American Championship. We have Carmelo Hayes and Wesley. Now, Carmelo Hayes believes that Wesley will only carry that title for 2 weeks, and that's going to be the end of it. But of course, Wesley has other things in his mind that he's not going to let guys like them take him down. So we'll see where that takes place. Now, uh, our next thing, we see Odyssey talking to Malik Blade. He asked him real nicely what's so special about the shirts he's wearing. Well, the sweater vest, he said those are the same ones that his father wore, and he do that in his honor. So I think that's pretty good of him to talk something like that. Now, our next our next match, we have Brooke Jensen and um, Josh Briggs, along with his family, taking on the Dyad, Riggs, Jagger, and Fowley. The match would have gone in the favor of the Brooks and Jensen, but however, Kiana James shows up to continue to harass family handling in order to buy her bar. Now, she has no intentions of selling it, that sort of thing. But we'll find out soon enough what is going on here. Then finally, we have Tatum Paxley and Indy Hartwell while Ivy now looks on, but Indy Hartwell removed the mask of Tatum Paxley in order to pick up the win. Even Roxanne even questioned her, was that necessary? But of course, Indy is now a changed person. That sort of sets the tone. Now we get our main event, which is the NXT Women's Title in a last man standing. The match was so brutalized, you probably would have assumed that Alba Fire would have gotten away with this one. But however, all of a sudden, we saw the sudden arrival of Isla Dawn, who missed what's her name, Alba Fire, and then however it ended with, of course, Mandy Rose retaining the title. I know I've been seeing fans who are saying they're sick and tired of her. They should give the belt to someone else, that sort of thing. But we'll find out soon enough if that's the case. It's gonna take place. Let's see. And I think that's pretty much it right now. I believe it's time for news updates. Okay, welcome to our news updates. This was announced by Tokyo Joshi Pro for their match on the 20th of November, ironically, which is the day of the historic crossover and many other things taking place. Yuka Sakazaki and Miyu Yamashita will be teaming up. They take on the foreign invaders, Billy Starks and Millie McKenzie. Now, keep in mind, Millie McKenzie challenged Miyu Yamashita for the Eve Championship, and it's going to take place in Japan. But as for Billy Starks, will be um, challenged by none other than what's her name? Yuka Sakazaki will be challenged by Billy Starks, and I thought it's going to be great. So just putting it out there for everyone, just to remind, it's going to happen on the 20th of November. Prestige Wrestling announced for two updates. One, Wilton Nangel returns to Prestige for the Things We Carry on the 30th of December. However, 2 months later, in February of 2023, their next show will be Reality Unfold with several musical artists and all this, and of course, the last confrontation between Drux and Akira. So that sort of sets the whole thing. Now we have for GCW updates, we have the one afternoon only on the 4th of December. It was announced Los Macizos and Jimmy Lloyd will be teaming up to take on the Rejects and Pondo, so that's going to be fun. Pro Wrestling Wave has announced that Saki and Hikari Shimizu, aka Guns, Galaxy Punch, and members of of Colors and part-time members of the sub unit of Cosmic Angels have retained their titles and have their 7th victory. And I thought it was impressive. They defeated members of prominence consistent of Risa Serra and Akane Fujita. Now, Tiger Mask, the original one, Satoru Sayumari, I think that's his name. He was in a press conference in the day, and apparently he had to leave early. He wasn't feeling too well. The reports are saying that, of course, that his health has been deteriorating. I hope it's not the case, but seems like it's going in that direction. And finally, Unagi Sayaka once again, as you know, I mentioned her earlier in the news updates alert. Unagi has announced for the put out a video, as you know, talked about. It was translated by Dana, saying that she is very much happy what she's doing. She just recently hanged out with a friend that she hasn't seen in a while, and I think she's enjoying her freedom. You know, things that she couldn't do while she was in Stardom. It would make sense because um, Mina Shirakawa used to do the same thing, but now she can't. So that kind of sets the tone. So we're happy for her and all this. But I will continue to follow more on her as much as possible. But I think that's pretty much it what we got for our news updates. So let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, we have AEW Dynamite. I'll be putting a news updates coming up. Apparently, recently I was unable to posted on this one because this just been spread out of my lap, but I'll explain more about this later. For now, I don't know what I'm going to be doing for the earlier in the episode, so there's pretty much it. So I think that's it for now. I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.